the Chi-Town experience on the flight. Let me go tune in to Keek on the mic. He gon' make sure we get our news and highlights. When you get on YouTube, you better hit the lights.
Ben Johnson has officially been introduced as the new head coach of the Chicago Bears, as the new era of Chicago Bears football has officially began. So let's go ahead and break it down, some key takeaways from his introductory press conference. Hey, what's going on, Bears fans? Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Keek on the Mic, the podcast all about the Chicago Bears. As always, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Bears fans, before we go any further with today's episode of Keek on the Mic, make sure you also do me a huge favor by also hitting the like button on today's episode of the podcast. All right, Bears fans, for those of you guys that weren't able to catch the introductory press conference for new Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson, I got you guys covered on today's episode of Keek on the Mic. And for those of you guys that have actually already watched the introductory press conference for Ben Johnson, how do you rank it? Did you guys like what he had to say? Give me your guys' opinions down below in the comment section. So we're going to go over some key takeaways from what Ben Johnson had to say during this press conference, and I absolutely love it. I love the command and the energy that he presents himself with when speaking in front of people. Obviously, there was many different questions coming his way. He started off talking about his time in Detroit, thanking the owner of the Detroit Lions and thanking Dan Campbell for his friendship and his mentorship. He talked about one of the reasons why he, stayed in the division is to, face the Detroit Lions, and how he enjoys beating Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers twice a year. So obviously, people love that energy as well. But I think overall, it was a really good press conference. It was just a, breath of fresh air going from Matt Eberflus to Ben Johnson. It's a guy that is really confident. He is ready for the opportunity. He's well aware of the opportunity at task, but also the challenges ahead of him. He knows it's not going to be any easy task, but he did reiterate time and time again on how excited he is to work with Caleb Williams and this roster. And I think that was the cool thing about this press conference, Bears fans, is that Caleb Williams, Odunze, Cole Kmet, and DJ Moore were all in attendance for Ben Johnson's introductory press conference. You can tell that Caleb Williams and all those guys are really excited. You guys probably obviously already seen what Jaquan Brisker had to say on social media. Everyone is pumped up about this hire. And I want to make it very clear, saying that one of the reasons why Ben Johnson chose the Chicago Bears was the people of Chicago, the city of Chicago. I found that quite interesting. He made it very clear that every year they would come up to the city of Chicago for a Chicago Cubs series. So he said every time he would come to the city, he would fall in love. He says he's excited for, opportunity to, raise his children in the city of Chicago and all those cool things. I found that really, really interesting, really cool. That was one of the reasons why he chose to coach the Chicago Bears. I do want to bring up some quotes that he had to say, some quotes that really stuck with me, and I wanted to share these quotes with you guys on today's episode of the Keek on the Mic. First and foremost, this is what he had to say to Ryan Poles. He said, "Ryan Poles, thank you so much for trusting and believing in me. This roster is already loaded with talent." And here's the big thing. You can clearly see that there's alignment between Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson. I know there's a lot of question marks leading up to actually us hiring Ben Johnson as the next head coach of the Chicago Bears about who is in charge, who's going to be in charge of football operations. Is it Kevin Warren? Is it Ryan Poles? Is George McCaskey, really meddling in football operations for the Chicago Bears? No, it was very clear in today's introductory press conference for Ben Johnson that it's going to be Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles' football team. He made it clear time and time again that was one of the big reasons why he came to Chicago, is that the alignment with Ryan Poles. And he gave Ryan Poles a whole lot of credit. He said this roster is loaded with talent. One of the big reasons that I came to Chicago is obviously the quarterback position, having a quarterback in place. And he says, analytics will tell you that this is a quarterback-driven league, that you're only going to be as successful as your quarterback. And he looked at Caleb Williams many times during the press conference and, reiterated how excited he is to work with Caleb Williams. And that is the most important thing here. So, and another thing I really want to bring up is the alignment, not only with Ryan Poles, But the alignment that he already has with Caleb Williams and how that relationship is going to be so important for the success of the Chicago Bears. He made it very clear that, this offense is going to basically be built from the ground up, and it's going to be start from the studs, but it's going to have Caleb Williams' skill set in mind. And I know a lot of people are going to reference back to his time with Detroit Lions, and that's a huge reason why he's the new head coach of the Chicago Bears, because what he was able to do with Jared Goff and elevate his game, and how the Detroit Lions for the last 3 years were top 5 in total offense and scoring offense and all that good stuff. But it seems to me that this offense is going to be crafted around Caleb Williams, and that's how it should be. You should always build your offense around your quarterback strengths and making sure you're putting your playmakers on the outside, not only your quarterback, but the playmakers on the outside in the best situations to succeed. So far, I love his vision for Caleb Williams. It remains to be seen what the offense is going to look like. But I have a lot of confidence that Ben Johnson is going to be able to elevate Caleb Williams, and it seems like he already has a clear vision. Another thing that's really exciting about the alignment that Ben Johnson already has with going back to Ryan Poles now is how he already knows that he has to upgrade the offensive line. There was questions asked about the offensive line, and he was very clear that he's like, obviously that's that unit that needs to get better in order for the offense to work. He said, me and Ryan will sit down together and assess that, right? And rather it's bringing in good coaches to develop the young talent that we already have on the roster, which to me was very key component that he kept bringing up about, building the staff with guys that have experience, aka possibly getting Dennis Allen as DC, and other guys that have experience possibly being head coaches to help him in his transition. But it seems to me that it's very clear that they're going to go out, him and Ryan Poles, and they are going to revamp the offensive line. Rather, it's getting Trey Smith at guard, getting Drew Dalman a center, drafting offensive linemen in the NFL draft as well. The Chicago Bears are going to invest heavily in offensive line, and that's one of the key takeaways I got from Ben Johnson as well. The offensive line is going to be a huge focus for them moving forward. Another thing that I found quite interesting today at Ben Johnson's introductory press conference, Nicholas Mariano, I'm actually asked about discipline and accountability, right? And that's something that the Chicago Bears players were saying that they were craving, and that was missing from Matt Eberflus, is just that accountability and discipline. And one of the things that Ben Johnson said really clearly, and I was really down for it, he said repeat offenders will be made an example of. I'm not sure how he's going to do that, but for example, there was a lot of troubling players, maybe guys like Tyreek Stevenson, right? Guys that, were doing the same thing over and over and over again because there was a lack of discipline in terms of the coaching staff. So he said repeat offenders will be made an example of, and that's something that really stuck with me in today's introductory press conference. But overall, Bears fans, the city of Chicago is excited. Obviously, the players are excited with Caleb Williams and DJ Moore, Odunze, and Cole Kmet being in attendance. Ben Johnson is super excited. He understands the challenges ahead, but I feel like he is well equipped for what's at hand to make the Chicago Bears a winning organization again. And before we end today's episode of Geek on the Mic, one of the big things that I really found interesting and it was really important is him talking about his experience with the Detroit Lions. He's like, a lot of people look at the Detroit Lions and they just see the last 2 years of us being really good, 12-5, 15-2, the number 1 overall seed, back-to-back NFC North titles. But he's like, a lot of people don't talk about how we weren't good, prior to us going 12-5 and 15-2 the last 2 years. He's like, a lot of people weren't talking about how we were also in a rebuild. So he's like, I seen firsthand on how to build a winning culture, what it takes to bring in the right coaches around everyone to really surround yourself with winning guys that are going to put in the work. He's like, I've seen it, right? So he's going to bring those qualities that he's learned from Dan Campbell and maybe the Lions organization in general and bring it over here to Chicago. So I think Ben Johnson has a vast amount of experience on how to build a football team, how to build a winning culture. We all know he knows how to elevate talent as well. And I just think he's well equipped to be a strong leader, a strong head coach. I think he's going to go out and get get good coordinators, so he can be, guided on his way to become a really, really good head coach. And I'm really excited for the opportunity for Ben Johnson. He said a lot of good stuff in today's introductory press conference. Bears fans should be excited for what Ben Johnson's going to bring to the Chicago Bears. But overall, Bears fans, once again, tell me how you're feeling about Ben Johnson in the introductory press conference. Let me know some of the favorite things he said in today's press conference that gets you excited down below in the comment section. But as always, Bears fans, as news comes, as he starts to build his staff, make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button and the notification to catch all Bears content right here on the podcast. Make sure you follow me on all my social media platforms, and make sure you share this episode of Geek on the Mic with every single Bears fan that you know. But other than that, be back for all new Bears podcasts right here on Geek on the Mic. Thanks, guys, and as always, bear down.
You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic. You can go and subscribe cause I be on it right. You ain't bout it, you ain't bout it, you ain't kick on the mic.